Hello and welcome to the Wake Up with Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Julie Boye, and today I have another Julie with me. Hello and good morning to Julie Reyes.
Hello.
I am excited for this. Julie and I were connected through mutual friends in the healing space. And, when I first met Julie, we didn't kind of know like what our connection was, but it turns out we have a lot in common besides just our names. We really both love to tap into the spiritual field. And, Julie is actually, she's an incredible, incredible woman. She's an energy healer. She's an intuitive empath. She recently started doing Akashic record readings, which I know she's so passionate about and has really transformed her life. So I can't wait to get into that part of her story. She is a spiritual transformation coach, a medium, and a channel for your guides to speak to you. And she's also a registered massage therapist. So if that wasn't enough, my goodness, Julie, like so amazing the way that you're bringing all these modalities together. But what also touched me about Julie's story is she's a survivor. She survived a number of difficult and challenging things, including childhood trauma, including, like me, several miscarriages, challenges in marriage, and all of these beautiful things and her beautiful healing journey really makes Julie just this incredible, incredible person who's really helping and serving so many people. So,
Oh,
hi, my
great.
friend.
Hello. Thanks for that wonderful intro.
Well, you amaze me with just all the ways that you're serving people. And I love too that, we'll get into your story about how your business has grown and transformed itself in a really short time. And I love that you're open. I love that you're open to allowing things to change and to flow depending on where your intuition leads you, for example. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that you are a survivor of childhood trauma. And I if you're open to sharing, I'd love to hear a little bit about, kind of what you were dealing with as a child, because you and I both know that often most people are dealing with something that, and you're just such a beautiful example of someone who's done some healing work. So if you don't mind sharing some of your story.
I don't mind at all because, like I said on my website, like if you survive childhood, you have trauma.
That's,
Plain and simple.
I
I
mean,
mean,
why are we laughing? But that's so true.
it's really true. Nobody. I mean, if you are able to make it through, you have some. And like there's different degrees of it, but mine essentially, for me, it started the day my parents split up, and I was 4 years old, and we got into a car with my aunt and uncle, my mom, my sister, and I, and drove from Ohio, where we were living, back to California. And then within a year or two, probably 2 years, excuse me, we moved up to Oregon. And uh-oh, this must be a little bit weird to say. It, so that's where it began, because that was one of the hardest, still to this day, that was pretty much the hardest day, the most sad day of my life, leaving my dad, because I haven't lived with him since. And I don't know, it's when your foundation gets ripped out from underneath you at such a young age, and it rocked me. However, I understand now that that all happened, and it was very real for me. I'm not going to dismiss that, but it was from a 4-year-old's perspective, right? I mean, that's the thing about why I say that if you survive childhood, you have some trauma, because everything that happens to you until you're an adult, like, it's coming from the perspective of a child, right? And our perspective is pretty limited. Everything's about us when we're kids, right? We don't know what it's like to be a parent, to be married, to be an adult, working and trying to raise kids and put a roof over their heads. So I always want to gift my parents that. And it took me a long time to get there. I was angry about it for quite a long time. I mean, literally until a couple years ago. Not gonna lie. I mean, that's part of the healing journey, is to forgive myself for my part in it, and to forgive my parents for just being humans, being adults, going through their own stuff. If anyone that has children and is married understands the amount of stress that that puts on your relationship and puts on yourself. And it's such a growth opportunity, but we don't always take that opportunity to grow right away. It's more like you're just in it and trying to deal, and survive sometimes.
And it's interesting too that you mentioned, you were 4, which experiences, from what I understand, before you're 6, they really get imprinted in a way that they're so black and white.
Yeah.
And a lot of our development before the age of 6, we can, if we say to a 5-year-old, you're not good at anything. And we're just like, it's a passing comment as an adult. And we were like, obviously it was just a one time. It doesn't mean I'm not good at anything. But a 5-year-old records that,
Yeah.
or records that message like exactly as it is. And then it's in the tape. So
Yep.
for a 4-year-old to go through, and it's interesting to me as well how you said like the images of that happening are still vivid. Like you said, you were carrying that until about 2 years ago, which, let's be honest, there are people, like thousands and thousands of people that are walking around right now carrying that childhood trauma and that have chosen not to do the work yet
Right.
and might carry that for their entire lives. So did you grow up in California? You grew up in Oregon then? You were in
Right.
California for a short time. You grew up in Oregon. So now you're Oregon for life.
Not necessarily. I live a life of duality. So I was born in San Francisco. That's where we lived in
Oh,
the Bay Area.
okay.
My dad got transferred to Ohio, and then so mom moved us back to California. And just continuing my little bit my trauma story, my mom hooked up with her second husband when we were in California, and then we moved up to Oregon with him. And he sexually molested me for a few years between, I don't know, the ages 6, 7 to 9 or 10 when they split up. So that has had layers of trauma and effect on my life. And again, just in the last few years, like it's all really coming to the surface because I've been ready to deal with it, ready to reprocess, heal it, and release it. And it's amazing how much those actions and behaviors on his part has played into my marriage, and my intimacy with my husband. And so it's been a really beautiful healing process with him too, because he's so supportive and loving and has wanted me to do this work for a long time, but I was resistant to it because it scared the shit out of me to be honest with you, to dive into it. It's like, no, I'm not ready. I don't know how. He wanted me to do this, wanted me to do this, but didn't have any tools to offer me either. And I was resistant to therapy as well. But I found my way, and now I have shed so many layers. And like I was saying to one of my coaching clients last night, when you do this work, at first it's really scary to dive in to your shadows and your childhood and all the traumas and your lack of self-worth that comes with that, from the stories, from like what you said when you're 5 and somebody tells you you're no good at something. You're carrying that, right? That's a belief that goes into your brain and says, oh, I'm no good at anything. But once you start doing it, you realize it's not as scary. It can be hard and painful and tough and gut wrenching at times, but what's on the other side of going through that dark place is freedom and liberation from this weight that you're carrying. Like you said, people are carrying this around them with them maybe their whole lives, right? So now anytime a new layer of something comes up, I'm like, right on, let's go. Bring it on. Because it's like, whew, just keep shedding it. I'm lighter and lighter. My heart is more full. I have more peace and joy in my heart. And that just emanates out to the world. And exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like
Yeah,
sugar.
I can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Julie, as a mother, right? Just hearing what you went through as a child and how horrible, sexual abuse is for a young child, not, and being told, of course, that you can't tell anyone. This is a secret, and carrying that forever. I mean, it's what you just shared with us about your extremely difficult trauma. And then your ability to make a choice to heal from this and to do the really hard work and to come out on the other side it's empowering. It's inspirational. It's if one person listening to the podcast right now has been through a similar situation and says, I now have the confidence to go ahead and take a step forward and do the work.
Mm.
You're helping someone. You're making a difference. What do you think it was that was like you just like was it like a decision you made? Was it something that you were introduced to that you said I'm ready to try this kind of healing?
Oh, good question. It's all kind of a blur now. Years ago, I started teaching Pilates and yoga around 2005,
Okay.
and it helped me physically feel empowered and confident and strong. So my process started from the outside in, with my physical body, and then doing yoga teacher trainings, it helped me start to move inwards. But for years, I was just looking externally for the answers in the healing and trying to find it externally instead of internally.
Mhm.
Um, it's because there was still some avoidance and resistance to really diving in. But I was just getting little snippets of information that all added up in the end, and then when podcasts came into my life, listening, like I love to listen more than read. I'm an auditory learner. That's my strongest way of learning. And so I just started hearing lots of information that was helpful to me, helped give me guidance. And I was taking it in and then processing it and like reflecting on things that I was hearing. And then I entered Ryan and Chris Yukomi's School of Soul Wealth program in 2019. And that was like the massive game changer for me.
Oh.
Because it got me in a group that was super supportive, had me constantly reflecting on my thoughts and my actions. Like it taught me to do that, to really pay attention to my thoughts and realize like, oh my gosh, a solid 90% of my thoughts were just stories and were untrue. And I was like, oh my God,
Oh.
I've been feeding myself like a constant just swirling. And you know what was a huge component of that was shame from that early childhood sexual molestation. It's like shame had been running the show for a very long time. And when I realized that, I was like, no more. And that was another game changer for me. Huge.
I just wanted to go back for one quick sec. Was it called the School of Soul Wealth?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I was like, that's something I've not heard before. So that sounds really interesting. So was it like a coaching program you took with them?
Yeah, it was a group coaching 12-month program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it finished up, we wrapped up last April. So right as the Rona was hitting, and we were all just like, whoa, what's going on here? But yeah, that really transformed my life. Thank you to Ryan and Chris and everybody in the program for all the support and guidance and help and celebration. They taught me how to celebrate everything, all the little wins, all the big wins, all the medium-sized wins. And that, when you celebrate, that just amplifies the joy in your life and in your heart.
Ooh, I love that. I'm writing that down. When you celebrate, you amplify the joy. Oh my gosh. All right. Tell me something you've celebrated recently. Didn't you
Last
just go on
night.
a beautiful trip?
Oh God, yeah, we just went to Tucson to celebrate. Well, we were celebrating my mama's 70th birthday down in
Yeah.
Tucson. That was super fun. And in the midst of that, a bunch of my like sister wounds came up, literally with my sister. Thank you. So grateful for that, because these are old wounds that have shown up so many times that I was like not willing to deal with. I went back into victim mode, angry with my sister. And this time I was like, okay, I entertained those ideas for a few minutes. And then after we left Tucson, we went up to Sedona, my little family, my husband and kids. I was like, oh, Sedona, help me heal this, help me process this, help me release this. And oh, so grateful for that it came up again, because now I'm ready to actually look at my part in the wounds that my sister and I have with each other and transcend, transcend and look at everything from my perspective now as a 45-year-old woman, empowered woman, compassionate human, instead of like from the perspective of childhood, like my entire childhood. It was so weird. I don't know if she felt this way because I haven't talked to her, but it's like we both reverted back to being teenagers again. And my cousin was there and she was like, it was weird. I watched you two just revert back to when you were teenagers and the way you acted together. I was like, I know it happens every once in a while, not every time, but definitely happened this time. But now I'm like, all right, it's time for this to be gone. Like it has to be reconciled because it's holding me back. And it's holding back the love between my sister and I that really should be there. That should be at the forefront, but it's not. The pain and the wounds were at the forefront. And that just doesn't need to be there anymore. It's not necessary. Thank you, Sedona.
I was going to say, I feel like you're giving us so many gifts right now
Oh,
with the
my
words and your
pleasure.
wisdom and these offerings for healing. I have a sister as well. And my sister's younger. Are you the younger sister or the older sister?
I'm the younger.
Okay. So I'm the older sister. But when you said that about reverting to the way that we were when we were teenagers, yeah, I feel that. And this year has really been trying on my relationship with my sister because I've, had a really obviously very challenging relationship with my parents. We've
Right.
spoken a little bit about it on the podcast. We sold our house so that we could separate from my parents financially. They moved out just about a year ago. We had moved to the island to try and make it all work, but it's funny. I think my sister also knew deep down that that was never going to work. I
Yeah.
think we all kind of knew it, but we all like really hoped that it would work. But because a lot of I think what you said too about healing is like, I'm responsible for my healing.
Right.
And if someone else chooses not to do their healing, if my family member chooses not to do their healing, I'm not responsible for that. But would you agree that when you do the work for you, it does change the relationship, even if the person's done nothing different?
Yep. Absolutely. Because it changes the energy dynamics between the two of you. And, all healing has to start within yourself, then your head and your heart, mostly your heart. But, and so if you're changing the energetics between you and another person genuinely and truly from your heart space, how can that not change the dynamics between you two? How can that not help affect healing? And here's a little tip. My cousin taught me this. If you're trying to work with the human and you're just not getting anywhere, go above their head and pray to their angels. Ask their angels for help with this. Because when we get the divine touch coming at us, you may or may not be aware of it, but it does ripple into your head and your heart and make you think differently. When with a human, you got a history, there's probably resistance there's old pain, there's like whatever, all the stuff. But when you're getting it from above, it's like, people are willing to consider more, and they may not even know what's happening, but it works. I've used that tip a lot of times, and it's great.
That's very helpful because I think one of the golden rules of being a human being is you can't change other people as much as we'd love to, as much as we want people to be our project.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't work. And I love the idea though of like tapping into their angels and asking for help. I do a lot of, I love doing card readings just for me. I just do them for me. And I have this beautiful deck, this Work Your Light deck.
Oh,
And often I get cards that are about, call in your council of light,
mhm.
right? Call in all these other spiritual beings that are unseen to us, but that are there, whether we choose to see them or not is up to us,
Right.
and how they can have this beautiful influence. So this kind of leads me to this really cool part of your coaching and your business that you've tapped into recently. Speaking of tapping into the spiritual world, you became an Akashic Records reader. So
Mhm.
tell us what that is. Some people, might be familiar with the term, but most people are probably like, I don't have a clue what she's talking about. So tell me what that is.
Well, the Akashic Records are, the way I put it, I mean, it makes the most sense to me this way because there's a few different definitions out there, but it's a energy vortex. And some people say it's energy, it's an energy connection from the Pleiadians, that's getting out there. It's a different dimension from the Akasha. And we all have the ability to tap into that. We just, not everybody understands that within themselves. But I had been receiving readings from my teacher, Cheryl Marlene, for about 5 years before I became a reader myself. Like she helped me understand how to open my own records 2 or 3 years before I started reading for others. And so I've been working with that since 2014. And then, yeah, last year in February, I did a 5-month training with her called Healing in the Akashic Records. And it was a very focused way of using the records to
Mm.
help heal your mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical body. And as divine luck would have it, divine timing, excuse me, a month later, we went into a shutdown, lockdown, whatever. And so being a massage therapist, that was my entire income. And I was a catering server. So all of my income got wiped out in about a minute. And at the same time, though, it was like I had been doing this training and I realized I was pretty adept, let's just say, at it
Yeah.
really quickly
Good.
because I already trusted myself. I already trusted my connection. Messages were always coming through for my massage clients, and so I'd been playing with this since I was a kid, but it was really honed in by the time I did this training. And I got her permission. I was like, "Can I start doing this now? Because this people need this. This is helping me tremendously. I can help others heal their trauma and their bodies, and it's all connected." And she said, yeah, she understood. She knows me well enough to know, like, yes, I trust that you have this ability, do this and this, and then go. So that's how that started about a year ago.
So yeah, you went through what a lot of people went through with the shutdowns, right? You literally everything stopped, and then you got to lean into something that you might not have otherwise.
Wasn't my plan, no.
No. And often, if we're comfortable, truth be told, often if we're comfortable, we're making a good living, we might not lean into our gifts in the way that we would when we're forced in an uncomfortable position. And I do think that's a real gift that's come from everything. There's also been a lot of trauma and tragedy and loss, of course. I love it when we can find gifts in things that have been really difficult. So you made this switch, you made this transformation, and then um, did you not make a huge investment in your brand new business as well with your coaching, the coaching program that you embarked on?
Right. So yes, I did.
Yeah, you did.
My business itself was really low overhead, which was really cool.
True.
I already had a setup here at home. All I need is a computer, really, a Zoom account, and cool, let's go. Um, and then clients, that was the bigger thing. Um, yeah, in the summer last year, I did a 3-month training with Danielle Sarank, the Squamish medium, just to, because I have medium abilities and I already knew that, but I really wanted to make sure I was doing it in a responsible manner and a healthy manner because I'm so, I so easily pick up on energies of other people and it can be really detrimental to my body and my health. And I just wanted to make sure that I was being clear in my intentions, safe and responsible, and safe with my health. So I did this training with her, and it was like, again, I was like, wow, okay, pretty adept at this. So that was cool. I mean, it helped my confidence with doing Akashic Records readings, and just it actually helped boost my confidence just in my own ability to connect. So I use the records now in my coaching, and I'll get back to your answer because I realize I'm
Okay.
doing a tangent thing, but
This is good.
um, I still use the records. It's not the at the forefront of my coaching program, but we do utilize Akashic Records readings to tap into the root cause of what's showing up for you now,
Mhm.
like what the blocks are, what's holding you back, what's running the show in your mind. We use it to like ask the questions to go back in time to find out like where did this start, so then we can help dissolve the neural pathways, the thought processes in the present. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So I go
absolutely.
backwards and forwards, backwards,
Yeah,
forwards.
yeah. Well,
um,
isn't that the sign of a really great coach is that you have a toolbox and you have a pretty big toolbox because you've also done, like you said, the physical work as an RMT. And I think did you get back into that a little bit already or no? Has it
yeah,
still,
I
yeah,
have
you
two
started.
businesses at all times.
Yeah.
I've
And so I
absolutely my
think
service.
there's also this beautiful understanding that our gifts aren't always going to be in one lane
Right.
and that the way that you allowed yourself to explore other things more deeply to not only to develop your own gifts but to better serve your clients and your community is also something that I think is really critical for us to understand is that as human beings we have different facets of the way that we are and the way that we show up and
Yeah.
we can only serve from our own gifts and you show us how that can show up in so many different ways and unexpected ways as well.
Mhm.
And then you invested in this program with our good friends Betsy and Laura, correct?
Yes.
Yes, you
Yes.
did, which was
uh,
transformational.
yeah. I'm like mind blower. Yes. And what's really cool is that I did their moon goddess training last year, like in January, and learned how to work with the moon, made connections with them. And I just like, I know I'm going to work with them again. Next time they open up a mastermind, I'm so there. And I just knew it was going to be in the fall. And then it's like the end of September, I get this email, mastermind with Betsy and Laura, let's just hustle ladies. I said, I'm in. And so it ended up being one-on-one coaching, which was way better for me and for them. So yeah, I worked with them for 6 months, and that also helped me understand my human design on a whole next level. You know, it's it was business coaching for sure, which I needed, but they really helped me dive deeper into the deeper layers of my blocks and what's holding me back. And so much of it had to do with like my family, my parents, my sister, and old stories around that, old feelings of needing their approval and seeking their love. Because to be completely honest with everybody here, including my sister and my dad, I'm very different than my mom, my dad, and my sister. I have these gifts that they don't have, and they don't necessarily understand it. And so I felt like last summer I was coming out of the spiritual closet. And anytime I said that to anybody that knows me, like in my day to day life, they're like, you came out a long time ago. What are you talking about? I'm like, oh, that's true. Yeah, I really do live this all the time. However, I just really don't discuss it with them.
Hmm.
And so to me, it was like one of the ahas that came out of this last trip to Arizona, just, a week and a half ago, is that I'm still seeking my sister's approval. And I'm like, what is this? Okay, this is great. I can work with this. Like I realized why I was seeking her approval still. And I realized how that's still holding me back now. And I don't need her approval. I'm sure I have it. I just revert back to childhood where she was just always like, why are you doing that? It's picking me apart. And from my perspective, that's how it was. From her perspective, I'm sure it's totally different. But I like to highlight that too. Hello, this was just my perspective.
Oh, yeah. My goodness. I totally, I'm like you. It's like when some kind of like difficulty or challenge or interpersonal relationship challenge comes up, it's like, okay, like there's a lesson here. I'm here to learn something. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. Um, I wanted to ask you because I know that gratitude has played a really big role in your life. And I know it's something that you practice. I'd love to hear a little bit about, what does that look like kind of through your day for you? Like, is it something you kind of wake up and just take care of, or how does gratitude show up for you?
Aw, I do wake up with gratitude. Um, and you just helped like deepen that. Your work helped me with that. To be honest with you, a couple years ago, my daughter, who's 20, she'll be 20 in a couple weeks, she lost two really great friends. They were both 18 years old in 2 months to tragic accidents, and they're gone. And I was already every day so grateful that to wake up again, to have my family all alive, but that really drove it home for me. Like my kids could be gone in a second. And that's a reality. Anybody can be gone in a moment. And that's just part of life. And I accept that. But every morning when I wake up, I say, thank you. I always say, God, angels, masters, and guides, thank you for giving us another day. Thank you for letting us all wake up. My family here, my parents, my sisters, my sister-in-law, my sister, everybody, my friends, and it depends on like how far I want to take it out. But I am grateful because A, I like them to be around, and B, it's a whole another tragedy when you lose somebody, and it really shakes up your life. And so thank you for letting my life be easy, letting us all be alive and giving us another chance for me to serve and to enjoy life. And so throughout the day, yeah, like, oh, this is awesome. It's sunny today. Thank you. If I happen to get up early enough to catch a sunrise, which I know you love, yeah, I'm like, thank you. This is amazing. But lately I haven't been doing that. But I catch the sunset as often as possible. Love those. And even when hard things show up, challenges, I'm like, thank you for this because this is allowing me to work through another lesson and perhaps shed another layer of the onion, so that, oh, I just got this really cool visual. So I'm sure you've thought of that. Have you ever thought about, there are layers of trauma as like an onion, you're just
Yeah,
peeling them
yeah,
back, right? And in the middle, oh, this is so cool. In the middle, this is what I help people with in my coaching program. We're just coming home to ourselves. It's like, that middle part of the onion that's like
yeah.
this, like that's you at your truest form, like your highest self. So by peeling back the layers, you strip away all this conditioning and programming, stories that you've put in your head, and you just get back to your bare bones self, your soul, in this human body that you can connect back with. I had never seen it like that. That's really cool. Thank you. Gratitude.
That is probably the most perfect way to wrap up an interview ever with this like
Awesome.
download guidance. I will never look at an onion the same way again. I love what you said that it's coming home. It's returning back and oh, that's very, very powerful. Thank you. I'm going to make sure that when I do the intro for this podcast, I'm like the best part comes right at the end. So you better listen to the end. Julie, where do we find you? What's the best place to connect with you?
I have a couple places and spaces. On the Instagram, it's Healing by Julie. On the Facebook, just Julie Reyes. And I have a website that's reyesbodywork.com. And
Awesome.
you know, it just made me think that onion visual. It's like, be grateful for the tears that it brings too when you're cutting one, because there's no healing without tears. It's a rough process. It'll burn you, burn your eyes. That healing process, So grateful for those too.
Uh, there's a whole blog post around that for you. You got to write that into a blog post. That's amazing. It's so good.
And
Oh,
yeah,
Julie, there we have been through to so many places today. You've shared with us so many gifts of beautiful, deep wisdom and this understanding of our soul's journey. And, oh my gosh, I encourage people to go back and listen one more time because there was just a lot of beautiful things shared that I think we can all benefit from. So,
oh, my
Julie,
pleasure.
oh, loved our time together. Thank you so, so much for being just the authentic Julie that I know and love. And I'm grateful to share you with our audience.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you.